Hey folks, thanks so much for your patience for this video getting out. This is me in May making a little bit of an adjustment, even though the script for this video was written in February and it was filmed in March and it was edited over the next 3 months. Took a long time to get this out just because the editing was a little bit difficult for me, but I'm really excited to finally deliver it to you. I'm here today though to give you a little bit of an update to the channel. I recently learned that my studio has a new rule. As you know, I make games not only as an indie, but also for AAA. It's my job. It's how I pay the bills. And they have a new rule, which is that if I make any YouTube videos, they can't be monetized. Okay, I didn't even know it was legal for them to do that, but them's the rules. And so there's a loophole where basically if the video's for charity, then I can monetize it. So from this point forward, my entire channel, all the proceeds are going to go to charity. So I wanted to inform you of that. And also, once again, disclose as always that I work for Microsoft, and they love it when I say that. So that's something I had to tell you. A little bit of news, but without further ado, let's roll into the video. I'm so excited to tell you about Breach Buddies.
500 hours. Now that's a lot of time. If you were earning the US minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, then that would amount to over $3,000. And hypothetically, if you were a mid-level software engineer at Activision Blizzard earning $40 an hour, then 500 hours would amount to an investment of over $20,000. Oh my God, that's a lot of money. So, what do I have to show for it? I'm going to show you 3 things. 1, how we got here, the progress that I've made up until this point. 2, how the game is now. I'm going to play through the game, show you a little bit about it, and introduce you to several of its features. And then 3, we'll talk about what's next. I'll introduce you to the roadmap for the game and explain to you what are my dreams and aspirations for this product yet to come. So, let's jump into it. So one of the easiest ways to understand a game, get a feel for it, is probably to introduce you to the genre. So if I were to throw a bunch of buzzwords at you, I would say that my game is a work in progress, real-time multiplayer, top-down shooter. It takes place mostly in darkness, so your field of view limits what your character can see. And unlike most top-down shooters, you'll be responsible for multiple characters. You'll only be able to control one at a time, but you can switch between which one you're controlling. And when you're not in control, you'll have an AI which you can customize to fit your playstyle that'll take over for that person and assist you in combat. You can also give your AI soldiers commands, and they will have stats that improve over time. I'm really excited for this idea for its potential to create asymmetrical battles. For example, one of my favorite games is Left 4 Dead, where one player can control the all-powerful tank zombie, and they alone can take on 4 of the enemy human players at the same time. I think it'd be really cool to have this game set up where you could go in solo as a very powerful soldier against 4 different players, or to manage your AI squad against your friend's AI squad. It's going to have a multiplayer focus, but there will be a story, and the story is super work in progress, but roughly the idea is that you are a baron of hell, and the soldiers you control are humans who have sinned, and now when you manually control them, you're actually demonically possessing them. So these humans are sort of your army, let's say, and you have the ability to either give them orders or to possess one of them, take control of their body, and fight for them. The main game loop is a mechanic similar to the game Escape from Tarkov. You'll take your little henchmen into raids, and it's within raids that you can fight both non-player characters, or called NPCs, or other players. In Tarkov, the main thing you do in raid is to loot items and fight people. And I think in my game, I'd want to minimize the amount of looting and instead really prioritize the combat first. In Tarkov, I should also note that when you die, you lose all of the gear you brought in. This game will be similar, but with a twist. Your soldiers are themselves a resource, so your henchman could be abducted by another player, and then suddenly he's no longer in your army. Now he's in another army. And just on the other side of the coin, if you see some really awesome bad guy, you can choose to defeat him, Or you can find a way to abduct him, drag him down to the depths of hell, and make him join your army. So I haven't quite figured out how that's going to be. Maybe it is some sort of demonic possession thing. Maybe you have to do a non-lethal kill and drag his body out. I'm not sure, but it'll probably be something like a post-death blood ritual in order to bind their soul to your demonic presence. So something like that I think could be really cool. Still thinking through it, though, of course. Finally, though, the main progression of the game will follow a story. And you'll need to complete quests similar to Escape from Tarkov in the overworld, you know, going up and fighting players and completing missions while you're there in order to progress that story. So, for example, one of the missions that you might have to do is rescue somebody from being a hostage. And then when you bring that person back into the underworld, the story will progress in some way. Okay, let's jump into a little demo. Here I have a 4-player game where I'm basically playing as all the different people. And on the 2 screens on my left-hand side, the big one on top and the little one on the bottom, they're on the same team. And the way that works is if you're on this same team, you'll be able to see an icon for the other player, even if you are not having a field of view. Even if you can't immediately see them, you'll always know where they are. And that's actually something that Rainbow Six Siege did that I really enjoyed. So on the, you could just see that now. Like if I play as the guy in the bottom left and I start moving up and down, you'll see that the guy on the top left, he could see that icon, that fist icon moving around. That way you kind of always know where your allies are, and if they suddenly die, then you know where they were before they went missing. But when it comes to seeing the enemies, it's a little bit more complicated because we don't want, of course, you shouldn't just know where the enemy is going to be. So instead, I have the case here. I'm playing as the guy in the top left, and I'm looking at the enemy on the top right. I can only see him if I have my vision cone aiming at him. And if I look away, he appears completely disappeared inside the shadows. So it took me a long time and a couple of videos. Big thanks to the Coder Monkey YouTube channel in order to help me figure out how to do this. But it's really satisfying the way it's come together. So I like that. So now I can only see that guy if I look directly at him. Otherwise, he's hidden. And if I walk into his cone there, you'll see that I'm now walking on the right screen. But there's a number of other things that we needed to do, which is that, you know, I want you to be able to find players even if you can't see them. So that was something I just did recently, and that's visualizing sound. So one of the ways that I thought I could visualize sound was inspired by the mobile game called Horror Field, where when you walk around, your footsteps are blood, and the killer can follow you based on your footsteps. So I've done something similar to that, where when I walk around on the top left here, you can see I've left these black footprints. And for another player, see if I walk around in the right-hand screen's vision cone, they actually appear as white footsteps. So you can go and trace down those footsteps to figure out who was the person. And generally, the color scheme I've been going with is black is something you can kind of ignore. That's from you or an ally. And then white is something that, you know, you should definitely pay attention to. You should go figure out what that is. That's probably from an enemy. So that's footsteps. And then one last thing is sounds that you might make when shooting your gun. So if I start shooting the gun, on the left-hand side, you'll see that it's kind of hard to see with such low resolution. But there's like a black circle that appears around the gun when I'm shooting, and that gives me a clue that somewhere in that vicinity, people will see a sound notification. So they'll know that I'm shooting, but they won't know where within that circle I am. Now, if you check out the right-hand screen, whenever my character on the left-hand screen shoots, a little white wisp sort of appears around that location, and it's sort of cluing players in that they're hearing sounds from over there, wherever over there might be on the map, and they should go over there to investigate it, figure out what happened. So again, it's very early prototype, but that's something that I'm exploring. The other thing I'm looking into are cordoning off sections of the map with borders and entrances that people will either have to defend or break through. This is some really rewarding gameplay that I've seen in Rainbow Six Siege. So if I come over here to this door, I'll push F, I'll open it up, and then I can walk through here. One of the issues that just came up from a playtester the other day was that, hey, if I open the door, then the guy on the right, he saw that the door is now open on his minimap. So then he kind of knows exactly where I am. So I think I'm going to have to revise that in my next test in order to figure out how I can sort of, maybe it's a mystery whether or not the door is open unless you're looking at it. That's something I'm gonna have to figure out. But it's also got me thinking it'd be really cool to see how this might adapt to a sort of World War II zombies mode, where in Call of Duty, when the zombies are coming in, they try to break down the doors slowly. And I think something like that could actually work really well for this game, because I do want to have zombie NPCs. So if you have to sort of block off the doors and defend the house before the zombies come, maybe that could be a rewarding mission type. Still something I'm exploring, but I'm really excited about the ideas there. So that's the demo. And now I'll talk a little bit about the project work overall and what the development process has been like. So this is a graph of all the work I've done so far, and it looks like I'm actually at 593 hours. So maybe I should have titled this video 600 hours. But you know what the thing is? It's that when I started making this video, it was actually a month ago, and it was probably closer to 500. But things being what they are, here's how the time has divided so far. 20% has gone to Photon. Photon is our online programming, so this is like the network code. And this is my first multiplayer game, so I really don't have any of the infrastructure to support this third-party library yet, and it's taken a long time to learn how to code in a multiplayer setting. Fix a lot of random bugs that you wouldn't expect to happen, like if a player leaves the server and stuff like that. So that's been 20% of my time. Opsiv has been 15% of my time. Man, I have to say Opsiv was a real pain in the ass. This was an asset I bought on the asset store for over like $200, and it controls all the animations for my characters. So they look really good, and they've got that nice, consistent, low poly aesthetic. But that's from Cinti Studios. I have to thank for that. It's a really good asset on the asset store. But I use Opsiv as my animator, and I don't know, I'm not super happy with it. I think the coding for it was pretty bad, but the animations are good. So it took me a long time to get that integrated with my system, and that was probably the darkest part of the project so far. And that took 15% of time. Then the other parts are a lot smaller. I have 6% on AI so far, and it's going to take a lot more than that to finish the AI system off, so I can only see this part growing more and more. 10% has gone into the development environment, which includes creating visualization tools like this for my logbook. Oh, by the way, I should say that all the information in this graph comes from my logbook. Every time I open up Unity, it prompts me to say what am I working on and what category that falls within. I have a different video on that subject. If you want to check it out, click the link up here. There'll be a little white box. You click that and you can check that out about how I stay organized and how I keep my stuff on page. That has all that information, and that's how I get the graphics for these visuals. Then 8% has gone into the camera work, which still needs some time. 10% into UI, which obviously is going to get a ton of love in the future because it doesn't look anywhere near where I want it to. And then 8% has gone into the FOV mechanic, which controls what you're able to see at any given time. And I think that's actually in a really good spot, so that probably won't grow. I think that's more or less done. So there you go, 593 hours. And over the last 3 months, that's been about almost 200 hours. So maybe that's something to talk about. If I go to all time, you'll see that I started this project in May of 2020, which is kind of wild because, yes, I've been working on it for 500 hours, but that's been spread over like 2 years. And the reason why it's taken so much time, here, let me jump over to the camera. The reason why it's taken so much time is because I've had to balance, this project, my indie hobby project, with my full-time job. And by balance, I mean not balance at all. My full-time job has always come first, and it takes a lot of time. So, you want to work at one of the best studios, right? You have to put in a lot of time, and I've just started a new job actually, because when I wrote the script for this video, I was working at Activision, and now I'm working at Microsoft. So it's a whole different story. And starting a new job has been a lot of work, and it's taken up a lot of time. So that's why I think this project has been, on the back burner. I'm going to be working on it. I'm really excited about its future, but I know that what I want to achieve is not happening anytime soon. We're really going to have to take our pace with this one, as, the full-time job is really demanding. So yes, I've worked on it about 600 hours. That equates to maybe 4 months of work, but I've spread those 4 months out over, many weekends, many, getting a little hour to work on it after work over 2 years, basically. So that's how the time works out, and that's how we've gotten to where we are today. So let's talk a little bit about the future and what's next for this project, Breach Buddies. So when I think about a project, I think of it in different sections. You've got sort of your pre-production, you've got production, then you've completed your alpha, or I guess you could do a vertical slice in there. Then you do an alpha, then or you do vertical slice, then you might do vertical chunk. I've heard the term, and then you do an alpha, and then you do a beta, and then of course you soft launch it, and then you do the full release. So there's a lot of different parts that go into making a game, and I would say we are certainly past pre-production. I had my prototype that took about a week to try and see whether or not this game idea was going to work, and now I'm in production, and I'm probably going to be in production for another, I would say probably another year and a half, at least half a year, in order to get the mechanics in place. And I would say we are past production and into an alpha state when you can play the game. And then once all the features are there, we're in a beta state. So you could play the game without all the features being there. We just need the core loop in order to complete the alpha. So what is missing from the core loop right now? Well, I already showed you that you could walk around and shoot some people, but there's a lot more that needs to go into this game. So the first thing is you need the ability to queue with multiple pawns. That's a core conceit of the game. That's the main idea, is that you're controlling multiple people at once if you choose to. So that's something that I need to do, the ability for you to have multiple people on your team, to enter into the match, and then switch between them, or if you're not playing as one of them, to give the other one commands as a sort of a leader. And likewise, if you give those commands, you might be able to somehow communicate to other players on your team, even if they're human players, what you want them to do in a sort of planning stage environment. This reminds me a lot of Rainbow Six Siege. At the start of that game, they always show you a map. And what I always hated about that was you couldn't write on the map. You couldn't draw battle plans and stuff like that. And I think that'd be such a cool idea for you to be able to do something like that. And that's something I would love to do for this game. So that's it. Multiple pawns and switching between them. The next thing is building out a somewhat robust AI system. You're going to have AI on your team. If you're not playing as a character, he needs to be able to take over for you and start fighting people. And then likewise, I need to have AI for you to fight in the world. So that could be AI who have guns, or it could just be mindless zombies who you want to attack in order to farm for XP and resources. So I need both. I need all of those AI, at least 3 different kinds of AI in the game. So that is another big milestone that we're going to need to achieve pre-alpha. 2 more things. The first one is inventory and looting. So just like in Escape from Tarkov, where you might go into the battlefield and find some cool loot and then maybe kill a guy, take his shit, and leave the game, and now you've got some cool stuff. Now you're rich maybe because you stole his cool gun. Well, just like that, I want to have that in my game, where you're stealing things and you have a limited size inventory that you could store it with, maybe some Tetris-like game mechanics where you have to figure out exactly how you're going to fit it into your backpack in order to get it out of there. I think that's all really rewarding, and I'm excited to add that to this game. So that's going to be it's going to take a lot of time to get a robust inventory system working, and a looting system so that you can go fight some people, take their stuff, and exit the game and feel like you have some sort of progression over time with respect to your currency, the economy, and things like that. And then finally, ghost mechanics. So one of my favorite things about Rainbow Six Siege is, unlike most first-person shooters where you only have one life, when you die in Rainbow Six Siege, there's still a lot that you could do. You could switch between different cameras, you can give callouts to your team, and you can even push some buttons that will ping the enemy players on the screen, and then other people will know exactly where they are within the map. I think all of that is awesome, and I think engaging players after they've died is just a really great idea for any first-person shooter game. However, I'd like to take that idea even one step further. So in this game, since there's going to be a lot of theming around after death and demons and ghosts and stuff like that, I think when one of your players dies, you should be able to play as them, but as a ghost. And maybe that could be a really rewarding and meaningfully different experience than playing as a human. So perhaps you can walk through walls. That could be pretty cool and sounds like something a ghost should be able to do. But maybe you can't fight somebody, but maybe you could tinker with things in such, sort of like a poltergeist, right? It's the name of a ghost that might throw things at people. Maybe there's a way to do something like that in this game that could provide a really rewarding gameplay experience even after one of your characters have died. Especially if you only brought one person in. If you only have one character and they die, I don't want it to be completely game over for you. I want there to be ways for maybe someone to do a blood sacrifice and bring you back into the game and stuff like that. So those are all the ideas I have planned for future work. I'm really excited to share more with you as this project progresses, and I'm hoping to have more smaller development logs in the future where I might go over a specific topic and explain to you, some of the thinking that went behind designing that one particular idea. This video hopefully served as an overview to get you familiarized with the project and what I'm working on here, and to get you excited about what's to come. In the description of this video, I will link a Discord link where you could join the discussion, where I'll be posting videos like this and other future announcements related to this project. And you can also engage with our community of hundreds of players around the world who are fans of other games that we've previously made. Me and, of course, Scott, my co-founder, on behalf of Black Vein Productions, our indie game studio. All right, thanks so much for listening in, and I'll see you in the next one.